I should be live. Yep. How's it going, folks? It's one half of Put It in Perspective. B Man took the night off. But it's Raimundo Telemundo from Santo Domingo to Panama. Not Panama today, to Miami, to Nueva York. And I got a special guest here. I call him Saj. I known him since high school. This guy helped me. He told me what doctor I should pick for my knee. He helped me out in life very dearly. We played ball together in high school. Introduce yourself, though, officially, Saj.
Yeah, so my government name is Sajed Sahni, but I go by Saj because that's not the easiest name to say, and I'm happy to be a substitute or fill-in guest, whatever you want to call it. But looking forward to catching up with you, Ray. It's been a while.
Oh man, it's been I want to say like 13 years since I saw you. I think my daughter was just born. Yeah, it was like 13 years ago when you referred the doctor to me. It was Allen Houston's doctor. That was the sales pitch right there. This is Allen Houston's doctor.
If he was able to fix that knee and Allen Houston came back for a couple more years to play, you and I were golden.
Right.
So I still play it. After going through ACL surgery and probably putting on like 40, 50 pounds since high school, I still play. So that doctor did wonders.
Damn. I don't play anymore. The last time I tried to play was a full court game, and it was the worst decision I made in my life.
As long as you didn't sprain your ankles, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I was good. Before I got to that point of a tumble, I just walked off.
Well, once you get out of game shape, man, it's hard to get back in. You're just like, I just want to go sit down on the bench, drink some water, and be a referee. You're like, I'm happy being a ref or something.
Yeah, I'll go and attempt to jog in the morning at 7 a.m. and get that in. I did want to speak to you because of the crypto craze.
Yeah.
And you actually were enthused about speaking on it. And I know a lot of people are, but I do trust you. Obviously, you build credibility with the Allen Houston doctor reference. But it's
I did
also
something right.
yeah. And I know you since high school, a good dude. Queens alumni here, Hofstra alumni, by the way. And if I only did it once, the crypto, it was like being compared to the tulip bubble a couple of years ago and the bubble. And it was like gaining that first head of steam, and then it dropped. In the last couple of years, it was wavering, was whatever it was, 8,000, 5,000, then jumped back up recently because of the pandemic and people looking for things to invest in, like the NFTs. Again, very creative in this world. Start off with crypto first, or explain blockchain. How would you want to?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand what blockchain is. I think that's the whole technology that's sort of changing the landscape, right? And crypto is just a facet of that. So essentially, blockchain. Think about it as like a database that's your computer, my computer, but it's spread out. It's not centralized by one company. It's not centralized in one location, right? That's the beauty of blockchain, and it's all public. So I can take that data and do a lot more with it. If I'm a really good data scientist, I can mine the blockchain and get some really cool analytics out of it. And a lot of that blockchain technology is what's spurring all this innovation, right? You talked about
Right.
NFTs, NBA Top Shots is on fire right now. You hear Bitcoin on every single news article nowadays, or you see it on TV. It's just a lot of game-changing technology that's taking place right in front of our eyes. A lot of it's powered by technology, and a lot of it's also powered by what's going on in the world with finance, right? With the government printing all this money, things getting more expensive, inflation going up. I think crypto has a place in this world. Personally speaking, like a lot of us, myself, try to get loans, and it gets more difficult, right? Like you have to go to a middle party, a bank has to, be involved. You have to go to like a real estate agent, and crypto kind of removes the middleman. Like I can go get a loan, I can go borrow some money without having to do all that, right? I don't have to worry about a credit check. It's a lot of cool applications.
But explain that part. I think that's the part where that's what interested me when I first learned about Bitcoin. I guess after what's his name, Tasha Mayashi, whatever his name is, that created it. He's been on the run. Satoshi, he's been on the run since. But it was the guy that created Silk Road. This is the reason why Bitcoin became Bitcoin. He put it on the map 8 years ago. The feds found him in the library. He was responsible for basically creating a digital Silk Road. He copied the name from the Chinese Silk Road, where they sold silk and all types of stuff, all types of materials. But there wasn't silk being sold in Silk Road. In this Silk Road, there was all types of drugs, and that's the reason why they got hot. And once he got caught, that's what caught my eye. And I'm like, wait, what is this Bitcoin thing? And even with Jamie Dimon, the way he speaks kind of adversely to it, for me, it's like, yeah, but JP Morgan Chase created a Bitcoin patent like currency.
Yep.
So cryptocurrency is real. So I guess I wanted to express, how does it eliminate the middleman? Like, because it makes it it gives it that integrity where you don't have to worry about this. You know, if you're familiar with the peer-to-peer Napster sharing streaming music streaming service.
I think that's a great example. So, you know, if for those of you, you know, and I don't want to date myself here, but if for those of you that have used Napster or any of these file sharing things, like you literally would start up a computer, go into like an application and kind of say, you know, I want to go find the latest Biggie song or whatever, and boom, it would show up, right? You would download it from someone else's computer. Maybe it's on your computer. I don't know who it is, but I would download off your computer and bam, I would have the song. Cryptocurrency is almost the same application, right? It's peer-to-peer, right? I don't have to go to a Spotify to download my music. I don't have to go to a bank anymore. We're not there yet, but you know, in theory, I don't have to go to a bank anymore to do stuff. But I also think if you take a step back, you know, there's a whole bunch of applications to cryptocurrency, right? Like Bitcoin is great, you know, because it went from 0 to like 56,000 today. Like, you know, that's in 10 years, like it's a $1 trillion asset. I mean, we haven't seen growth like that ever. Like, I don't, you know, with the exception of maybe like Tesla stock, you haven't seen anything like that. And it's important to note why Bitcoin went up, right? Financially speaking, Bitcoin is like a hedge, but Bitcoin can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. To me, it means a hedge because like one Bitcoin or, you know, one Satoshi is like 1 cent of a Bitcoin. You know, think about it that way. Is always going to be 1 cent, right? If I want to go buy something, it's going to have the same value. And that is one of the cool things about Bitcoin. Like it doesn't lose its value, right? If inflation goes up, you know, the price of like an apple goes up. But to me, that Bitcoin value is still going to hold the same. I'm still going to have the same buying power. That's a really important concept to understand with Bitcoin. And then there's all the different flavors of it, right? You have like Ethereum, which is like, you know, that's what, you know, DeFi is built on. NFTs is built on that, and I kind of look at Ethereum as like the new internet. You know, that's connecting a lot of people together. It's decentralized, meaning like it's not controlled by a single person or a single group.
Right.
It's like a lot of people like you and I turn on our computers, load up a, you know, what's called a node, and all of a sudden, bam, we're part of the ecosystem.
So before that, what keeps the integrity? Like, it's the blockchain that actually records the transaction in some sort of algorithm, right? Like a math equation. So now you're following these transactions, but they're encoded, they're encrypted, and how does that work?
Simply speaking, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It's distributed, meaning like it's not controlled in one single entity. So like it's immutable. I can't change it. So for example, I make a transaction on the blockchain. You know, I go buy a car, and I pay someone in Bitcoin. It's there. The record is there, and I can't change it. Like I can't go and erase it. I can't go edit it. And automatically gets copied over several times to other blockchains. So it's always a record. That's kind of nice. You know, if you're looking in a world today where there's, you know, what is the truth?
Right.
Man, it's on the blockchain. You know, I can't change it. That's kind of nice. You know, so for me, I first got into this. I know I didn't ask this, but I got into blockchain back in 2017. I got into it. All my friends were talking about it. Man, there's so much money to be made on this thing. And I blindly followed people. And I'm like, all right, let me do this. And I saw it go all the way up. And then, you know, what was it, like January? I'm like, man, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to be rich. I don't know the first thing about it. And then all of a sudden, fell off a cliff. Like it went to nothing. That's when I kind of told myself, like, I need to learn what this is because this is kind of cool. And I spent the last 3 years learning, reading, studying, and learning about all the applications, which is why, like, I think this is like game-changing stuff for people like you and I and the common folk that wants to get ahead. I think this is game-changing stuff that we should all try to understand at least.
I mean, I think the two things that always stand out that stood out with Bitcoin was I spoke on the market crash of 1929, and that's how I got into investing with my boy KG. We went to Keith that we went to high school with. That's my boy to this day, my brother,
Nice.
and we got into investing together in a sense because he was working downtown for a shop before, for a long time, but we got into the investing side. So the market crash of 1929, we kind of studied that, and the first thing that we saw was how debt and interest in general is always a common denominator during all of these crashes, and specifically back at that time, like I spoke about in that short video on Facebook. But more than that, it was the common person, your shoe shiner, the cab driver, not a cab driver back then, the horseback rider, whoever it was, that were all talking about investing into the stock market. So it kind of like 2017 when Bitcoin spiked up, I was prepared for it to drop, and I've been studying it like on a technical side, technical analysis side. I'm pretty good at charts, at reading them. And then what would scare me on the other side would be there was no institutions back then that were claiming their positions as they are now. For Elon Musk to come out and say, I have $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, and then say 2 days later that whatever, he doesn't think too much of Dogecoin or Bitcoin, whatever it was. You brought up Tesla and how it shot up. I think that's how he kind of operates life in general. Mm-hmm. And that's how he brought up. He even says that Tesla is not worth that much. He said that before. And it's weird to see people in this position of power play the pump and dump game. Like, I thought this was all illegal. What do you think about Elon Musk and how he really operates?
Man, it's I think this could be an interesting conversation. I think, personally speaking, I think the rules of enforcement are selective.
Right.
You look at Elon Musk as a great example. Like, he goes out there and talks about stuff, and nothing happens. And you had the GameStop scenario that happened a couple of weeks ago,
right.
and those guys went all the way to court, right? Because there was someone else on the other side that lost a lot of money, who was an affluent hedge fund manager. So, you look at the rules and you see, are they equal? I think we can debate that. But going back to your example of 1929, we're kind of there again, right? It was called the Roaring '20s because people were pent up, stuck in home, and they went out and bought a lot of stuff, and the economy boomed. And 100 years later, here we are. We're all stuck in a pandemic. The government has done a great job taking care of the citizens with money. Some may argue it's not enough. Some may argue it's too much, but they're doing whatever they can to get people back in jobs. And we're kind of seeing the same thing happen again. But I think the one thing that we've learned, or I hope the government has learned, that you don't mess around with interest rates, and you raise them at the wrong time. It makes stuff. I think what makes it here, what's different now is that the interest rate's like virtually zero. Yeah. So we're on the other side of the curve now. So we'll see how this plays out. I think we have a really interesting ethical debate on who the rules are for, and then that's why I think crypto levels a playing field. Right now it's unregulated. There's no real regulators, and they're slowly putting some rules around it. You're starting to see banks get into it. You're starting to see Elon Musk put some Bitcoin on his treasury balance, right? Because if he's got let's say $5 billion in the bank, and he's able to buy 300 cars for that kind of money, just an example. Mm-hmm. As the car parts get more expensive, that same $5 billion only buys 250 cars. But if he had Bitcoin, he still has 300. That value still retains the same 300 cars. So that's that's the most interesting concept of cryptocurrency, that against inflation or deflation, it always has the same value. And that's why they put it on. I don't know if you guys follow Michael Saylor from BitStrategy. That guy, I don't know how many billions of dollars of Bitcoin he bought for his company. The city of Miami, allegedly is rumored and saying that we're going to pay our employees in Bitcoin. That's a little bit more irresponsible, but it's everywhere now. It's everywhere. It's a matter of time before we hit regulation, and then
it's not that safe yet.
Yeah, it's not that safe. That's why I always caution people. Like, one of my rules of investing is invest in what you know, and if you don't know it, go get educated on it. and then get in what you know. Like same thing with the stock market.
Right.
Everyone's like, oh man, the stock market's on fire. I'm gonna go launch a Robinhood account. Awesome, but make sure you know what you're investing in, because you're gonna put your money into something that's hot, and then all of a sudden, you're the one with holding the bag, and everyone else kind of made the opposite trade of you. So
Right, which is like the whole pump and dump thing that we were talking about from 1929. And
yeah,
I think because there is a lot more transparency now with the internet, obviously that kind of changes things from 1929. Information can get, travel a lot faster. And we have kind of like these sort of stock market hackers now, like the Wall Street traders, what is it, Wall Street bets?
Wall Street
These are-
bets.
They're basically hackers, and it's beautiful what they did. I just didn't. I was worried about other people being copycats and promoting it on video. It's like, you gotta calm down. Like you just said, Elon Musk might be connected enough to get away with a lot of these things, but you should not put your face on Front Street to pump and dump a stock. That is not legal. But the second thing I did think of when Bitcoin was blowing up, in a sense, was Richard Nixon, when he took the dollar off of the gold and was backed by gold, and it's now like my whole life I didn't realize it is a fiat currency. So it's just like Bitcoin in a sense, where the only reason why we don't think of it that way is because we've seen dollars before in our hands and we can touch it. But Bitcoin, most of us, 99% of us, haven't touched anything worth of as Bitcoin exchange. So that's the other side that like makes me believe in it. I'm just working on debt. I'm trying to clean my debt away right now. I'm being like as honest as possible with everyone. If you have debt, you shouldn't be investing. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Unless you're already in the game and that's part of your gig. If that's part of your 9 to 5 thing, that's how you make money, then you have to get rid of your debt that way.
Yeah.
But you say you've been doing it for 3 years, and what apps do you use for?
Living in New York, it's not easy. New York State requires all these cryptocurrency vendors to get what's called a bit license, and that's not easy to get, right? So right now, as a New York State resident, I can trade on Coinbase, which is great. It's really easy to use. You can log in, hook up your checking account, hook up your your debit card, and you can go buy right away. Really, really awesome. The app is super easy to use. Like, it's really graphical. You click on a few buttons and off you go. There's other exchanges like Gemini. I don't know if you heard the Winklevoss brothers, right? Or the Winklevi. They own that one. Yeah. That's a great exchange. It's a little bit more complicated. It's not as intuitive and graphical as Coinbase. But those are the two I primarily use. New York doesn't make it easy for residents to trade in crypto.
And you brought up Ethereum, and Ethereum is another type of cryptocurrency. It's another type of blockchain currency, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that you can also trade on, and there's many types of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, there's many type of blockchains. That's the thing you want to emphasize. There's many type of blockchains that kind of do different things. Some blockchains are for like processing. Some blockchains are for like security. Some blockchains are for like transactions and how fast it can process the transaction, right? Like, think of the Visa network, right? You got people all around the world charging their credit cards, and if you put that on the blockchain, theoretically you can have a few million transactions go per second. So this is what kind of blockchains there are around, and you have things like the NFT, right? NBA Top Shot, that's powered by something called Flow Chain. They do a lot more things like digitize stuff and put it things. There's a lot of cool things that are going on with blockchain.
So let's say you use Coinbase. I've used that before. I've used that 4 years ago now to get into crypto. So you would get onto Coinbase and you link your account to your bank account in order to transfer money as we normally do with any other application, whether it's a sneaker app, a clothing app, whatever it is, a food shopping app. This is the Bitcoin app. This is the cryptocurrency app. So you send money over there. I guess as far as taxes are concerned, do they have the same regulations as regular taxes?
Yeah, so that's like a gray area, right? The IRS treats cryptocurrency like property, and it's grown so quickly. The rules are getting a little bit better. But I personally use a third-party app called Coin Tracker. where it takes all my transactions and it puts it into like the, a proper IRS format. I click on a button and it, my 8949 form, whatever the form is called, it spits out and give it to my accountant. Not many accountants know how to handle this yet. It's still new. So,
Mm.
this kind of stuff, you always have to log your transaction, throw up a spreadsheet on Google Docs, and just, say on this date I bought, $10 or something, and just log it, because you never know, who's going to come knocking at your door and say, hey, you bought this stuff, you made a good amount of money. How much money did you actually make? And like, oh, I have my records here. So that's also part of the challenge here.
I think you should shout out your accountant if they know about how to how to account for your Bitcoin ownership.
Well, I've gone through multiple accountants.
We all
So
have.
we all have, right? Like, you always find a good one, and then they start charging you an arm and a leg, and you go find a better one. But for me, I think there's a lot of software out there. There's a lot of cool apps like Blockfolio that kind of tracks your crypto your profit and loss. So it's always to know how much you paid for something and how much you sold it, right? Because today I bought something in Ethereum, and I want to go buy something on, like, let's say, Litecoin. So I'm taking that Ethereum, then I'm converting it, right? So essentially I'm selling it at a certain price, and then I'm
Right.
buying something else at another price. You got to have good record keeping, and these apps automate all that. So
Oh,
it's
that's is there a wash? Is it like a wash tax? I forgot the
it's
name
like
of
a
it.
wash sale. Yeah,
The
yeah,
wash. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So that's amazing. And so is that the same? Would it be the same way going to the NFT subject now? If you can purchase NFT with cryptocurrency, any Bitcoins, any Dodge coins, which I'm gonna get to in a second too. But you can use that to buy the NFTs. You can use any type of money, any type of currency to buy NFTs.
Yeah. So NFTs. I think the first thing is, like, what is it? What does NFT mean, right? It means non-fungible token, and I think the key word there is fungible, right? Like, what is fungible? What are you talking about? So, like, I can take $1, I can go to the store, and I can get 4 quarters, right? Like, I exchange my dollar for 4 quarters. That's a fungible thing. Non-fungible means I can't take my my limited edition Michael Jordan card that I got off of Top Shots, which doesn't exist, but I hope it exists soon because I want to get one. I can't go trade that in for, like, another card. I'm the owner of that moment. I'm the owner of that, and I can procure that in fiat money. I can procure that in Ethereum. I can go buy it in Bitcoin. I have multiple ways of getting it, but essentially I'm the owner of that. And what I think that the nice thing about this is, you and I were all basketball. We went to the store and bought cards in high school. Like, oh my god, look at this, and we put the cards in our drawers, and they got all bent from the side, and mom threw it out or whatever happened. Like, it's
Mhm.
gone. You don't have to worry about that with digital tokens, right? Like, I can say I own this card. It's authentic. The NBA licenses to me, and I paid for it. Down the line, I can easily transfer to somebody else, and they can complete their set, right? It just makes things a lot easier.
And they're using that for the in the art sector as well.
Yeah.
If you have any painting, it's amazing. And even, I mean, this is so big. That's why, again, we live in a different world where the NBA is kind of lucky to have the ownership like a Steve Ballmer and Mark Cuban, who are already ahead of the game, and they created a committee for
Yeah.
the NFT, I guess the crypto world. Um, I guess I mean, this is crazy that for a long time now, cards or trade, I don't want to say they had no value, but especially after 9/11, a lot of that stuff dropped off in value. And
Yeah.
now after a pandemic, a lot of those stuff rose in value. So that's a like an interesting, it's interesting how that happened.
Yeah,
Um,
the rarities aspect of things, right? Like, a lot of collectors kind of stopped collecting. The younger generation after ours, went into video games. The cards became more scarce, and now that the pandemic is over, there's a lot less. There's a far fewer card shops now, right? So the market has gotten a little bit smaller, but the number of people is still there. So there's an increased demand artificially in that respect. So I think it's awesome, to be honest with you. And I think, to your point, the technology is boosting a lot of this. Like you said, Bomber, and who made a lot of money at Microsoft as a tech person. Cuban is a tech investor. If you watch Shark Tank, he's investing in a lot of cool things, and he understands the power of this. I also think the power of NFTs is really cool because it takes a regular artist, someone who's in their home, who's a really good, draws really well or sings amazingly well, they can take their art, digitize it, and actually sell it, right? Not everyone can go to the Sotheby's and hang up their drawing and say, hey, I'm gonna go charge you $1 million for my my cat
Right.
painting. But now you can do that. Now you have the technology in front of you to actually monetize on your skill, right? So I think it's once you start to understand, embrace that technology and what it can actually do, it opens up a lot of doors for people like you and I and our friends that we grew up with that are really talented, now have a way to kind of capitalize and showcase their work to the masses. But the most important thing, they can showcase their work globally, right? I think that's really cool.
As soon as you said that, I thought about YouTube and how this. Once I'm done with the recording, I mean, podcasting is not easy. You can see why a lot of people get turned off by it,
Yeah.
because you have the editing and how to promote it, and you can't. I know for a fact you can't put out an entire podcast for an hour and a half, and people are going to go, are drawn to that. No, they're drawn to the short clips.
Yeah.
But with that being said, there's a way to monetize these things, and in a sense, YouTube and a lot of these videos on the internet were the first NFTs, because you're monetizing your artwork or your expression.
Yeah,
So
but the
when
key
you
thing
hear,
there, it's not decentralized, right?
right,
Google, where I work, they're the ones making the money, right?
right,
NFTs is you and I are making the money. Your friends are making the money. There's no middleman.
man,
That's
right.
just to go back to middleman example. Right now, you don't have an entity saying what you can or cannot do anymore.
Mm,
That's the huge game changer in the tech space right now.
right. And that, of course, leads to one of my next logical questions, which is which one eventually takes over the dollar, and which one is the NWO New World Order gonna back back first?
Man, this is, I don't know, WWE, NWO. I don't know which way to go here, right? I wish Jeff was on. We can have a good conversation about this. I think this is an interesting debate. If you study the history of money, it's not that long. Every 100 years or so, there's a
Mm,
change. Before the bartering system, then you had sort of the shillings, and then you had gold, and then you have dollars. We're kind of at the 100-year mark where it's probably an inflection point for something else. I don't know what will win. But I can tell you, when I look at the data, around how much money's coming into crypto, not necessarily Bitcoin. There's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of projects that are going on. The amount of money flowing into the tech space is big. You know, a lot of my friends, like yourself and everyone that I know around me, is kind of taking notice. Like, this is probably the way to kind of save money going forward. Because you put your money in the bank. What do you put $100 in the bank? You put $1,000
right,
in the bank. You sit on it for a year. You got $1,000.20. Like, that's just a
right.
waste of time, right? Like, you're better off putting it somewhere else. And crypto is probably that example to kind of show you that there's a lot more potential out there. It's not easy. That's the one challenge about crypto. It's not easy. Like, you gotta sign up for an app. Like for example, like our parents and our older generation can take their wallet out, give someone $1, and it's real easy. Now you got to sign into an app. You got to put in your NFC code. You got to scan a barcode, and if you have a private wallet, you got to take out this USB stick, and it's not
Mhm.
easy, right? Because the security aspect is still something that has to get a little bit easier for everyone to use.
I guess Robinhood, the app, even they got into some turmoil because of Wall Street bets, but it really is because they were the first domino in the effect,
Yeah,
where they got rid of the charge, the sales charge or the tax, whatever it was,
trading fees. Yeah.
to right. And after that, it set this world up where Bitcoin is available without. Do how much does Coinbase charge you, or I forgot?
Yeah, Coinbase charges you, a flat fee depending on how much you buy, right? It's anywhere from like $1.99 to however you much want to buy. But I think the $2 is like the minimum they charge you.
Okay. So I guess as you were speaking, I'm thinking of, if it's not Bitcoin and whatever would have to transpire to replace the dollar, um, what is there anything else that you can see with the technology in blockchain or in some sort of in the crypto world that will spark the next movement where, oh no, this is officially has to be the new dollar, the new
Yeah.
currency?
Man, this whole cryptocurrency stuff reminds me of, the DVD battle not too long ago, right? Like, is it
Mm.
Blu-ray, or is it going to be, you know, what I forgot the technology that Microsoft used.
Oh, it was in Microsoft. I know Blu-ray was coming out, and they were trying to hold on to like the HD DVD, and I was like, you might as
Yeah,
well do it.
that's right. It was the HD DVD versus the Blu-ray, right? Sony had the Blu-ray, and then Microsoft had the HD DVD. Who's going to win out? You know, they both had like really awesome, clear picture, but you know, Sony's products, as they had so many years of making, you know, VCRs and stuff like that, they brought the cost of DVD players down so fast, and then they came out with the PlayStation and the Blu-ray games, and then they just caught on, right? I see the same thing happen with Ethereum, to be honest with you, right? Like, they're the
Mm.
first to market. They're building all this technology that, you know, decentralized finance. That's what DeFi is, right? Decentralized finance is built on top of. A lot of the NFTs. A shout out to OpenSea. If you guys really want to know what NFTs are, go to OpenSea.io. You'll see, like, it's like an art gallery online of all digital stuff that people have tokenized on the blockchain. Really cool way of doing stuff, and that's all built on top of Ethereum. So I kind of see that to be the, you know, the king of the race right now. You know, I think people equate Bitcoin to gold, which is
Mm.
great. If you want to use the same analogy, gold back the dollar, Bitcoin
Right.
probably go back Ethereum, you know, something like that. We'll see. It's too early to tell. You know, I'm just a speculator right now, making my own guesses here. We'll see. We don't know. The
But
government's a powerful thing. They can easily shut it down. They put a couple of regulations, and we're done. You know.
which is a fear, But so you're saying that in a sense, Bitcoin being backed by so many people, and there's this huge market for it, and it determines a set price, which is, you know, nothing is backing Bitcoin except the actual supply and demand of the people. So that in itself can back Ethereum.
Yeah, you know, like you have Bitcoin, which is like, you know, a deflationary asset is always going to hold its value. But it's not meant to do, like, you know, there's only 21 million Bitcoin in the world, right? It's a finite amount. It's not going to get any. It's not going to grow. But over the years, people have lost some. They've tossed it out. You probably read, you know, people who had hard drive that they chucked out. People estimate that the actual number of Bitcoin in circulation nowadays is like between 16 and maybe 17, 18 million. And there's, you know, over 7 billion people in the world. So do the math, you know, like a fraction of a Bitcoin is pretty much going to reach every person around the world. Where Ethereum, on the other hand, is much more wider in circulation. It's like money, right? It has a lot more scale, so to speak, and there's a lot more of it available. So that's my guess. You know, who knows? Technology wise, something will change. Maybe something else will come out in a couple of weeks. That's just the next big thing.
Right.
But I think that, again, the core principle here is the technology behind it. So whether it's Ethereum, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Litecoin, whether it's, you know, Ripple, the technology is powering all this innovation, and we'll see who wins out.
Is there any website that you go to? Like, I know, what is it not? Like one of the official Apple websites was like gizmodo.com. We wanted to see what was the latest update, and even for fashion, it was what was it called? Boost, hype beast. Back in the day, hype beast was like whatever was the latest trend. Where would you keep up with your news on Bitcoin?
And I do a lot of reading. I go on CoinDesk. CoinDesk.com is a great place to go. It's sort of like the, you know, the Wall Street Journal of crypto. Like, all the articles are there. You'll see all the innovations, all the cool projects that are coming out, and also the projects that have died. You know, not every project's gonna be a success.
Mm.
Some projects don't pan out because, you know, they didn't understand the market, or the tech wasn't really good, or, you know, something better came out a couple of weeks later. You know, it's very, in a very rapidly moving space. You know, you could be the king one week, and then 3 weeks later something comes out, it's a better fish, or a better, you know, a better hook, and then you're done. You know.
Yeah,
um,
I would like to have an update. Maybe I don't know if it's a weekly update with you and on Bitcoin. I think this is a really important, uh, not just a topic, but I think I mean, it's gonna affect the world. It looks like potentially, and even with that potential, I want to be ahead of the curve, get my YouTube likes up, and get some money off of this. Quit my day job.
I'll give you some tips on how to monetize your YouTube. I've learned a lot of cool things, but, you know, I would encourage anyone, you know, who's interested in having a better life, having a bit more money down the road. or even finding a way to save for your kids or your grandkids. I think this is a great way, whether it's $1, $5, $10, whatever you can afford to park. 'Cause things are getting more expensive each day. You know, you go to the grocery store, you know, $20 used to buy you, you know, maybe a loaf of bread, some eggs, some milk, and maybe some cookies for your kids. $20 pretty much gets you half of that now. So things are getting more expensive, and this is a great way to kind of, you know, stay ahead of that. I think the one of the things I always harp on, that you know, a lot of my family are first generation Americans. They don't understand what inflation is. So like, if you can stay ahead of inflation, you're going to be good for the long haul. I think that's what you always want to do. And that's something that you kind of have to understand what inflation does. And I think crypto is a great way to do that.
Inflation is usually 4 or 5% a year, right? Or
Yeah, you know, it depends. You know, the Fed targets between 2 and 3%.
okay.
Um, but
Can you
you know,
explain really how that works? Because I've heard it and I'm like, so the price of bread is going to go up 2% every year?
yeah, I mean, what has gone down over the last couple of years, right? Like your rent goes up every year. You know, I would hear my parents always say like, "Oh, when I first came to the U.S. back in the '70s, I used to go get a pizza for a quarter." Right, and, and
The movies for 5 cents.
yeah, you used to hop on the train for like, you know, a token was what, 35, 50 cents, whatever it was. But
Or
everything
jump the
goes up.
turnstile for free.
I was always a big guy, man. I was too slow. I couldn't get over that turnstile quick enough.
Better get your
But
footwork up, man.
Mr. Weinstein, there you go. No, but
Yo, Mr. Weinstein. Shout out to Mr. Weinstein.
Mr.
I'm
Weinstein.
in the, I'm in the RFK group right now. I'm speaking to Mr. Lord and Mr. Buzzio. I have stories about this, but I can't put it on nothing crazy, but I
I,
can't put it on the camera.
I will say this is the one awesome thing about social media, is that it's connected people together so much. You know, I'm in the same group to you. I met Mr. Buzzio, Mr. Lord, you know, all my friends that, you know, the locker, that were in the locker right next to us in the same homeroom class. It's been so awesome to connect with them. That's so,
Crazy.
yeah, it's been great, and I see all my friends having their kids and watching them grow up over social media, and it's been wonderful in that respect. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
and
the good. I think that's the good part about social media that we don't focus on enough, and everything got. And that's a part of the reason why I listen. I'm very upfront about stuff. So like, even with MAGA people, Black Lives Matter people, like, I just see such a division, and I'm like, you guys don't realize you're being like, there's a puppet master, and you are supporting. I don't even know what.
yeah,
Like, the division is where it just impedes progress. And I think for anyone who tries to be conscious about what they're receiving, the information that they're receiving and trying to build on, there's no way. I mean, there's a reason why we avoided sex, politics, and whatever the hell else during office hours. It was
right,
too polarizing. So on
right,
social media, I think they try again the same way that the government or people feel like they have to centralize. So the stock market, it was centralized. They're gonna have to go through that with the social media because it is so powerful.
yeah,
But I was gonna ask you about Dogecoin.
yeah.
Um, this started as a joke, right?
Yeah, it's you know, it was known as a meme coin, right? So
Okay.
it's a joke, you know, and then slowly it starts moving up, and see Elon talking about it. And I just read the other day that the Dallas Mavericks, now you can pay in Dogecoin or Dogecoin. I don't know how to pronounce this thing.
I thought it was Dogecoin.
Yeah, you could pay in something like this, but it has no intrinsic value. It has no meaning behind it. So I can't wrap my head around how this thing has value. But hey, I personally, I'm not going to go with the trend. You know, this reminds me of something like I just had it said earlier. Go with what you know, and I don't know what this is, so I'm going to stay far, far away from it. It could go at $1 million, doesn't phase me. I just
Right.
don't know what it does. So, you know,
That's something I don't say enough, that people love to relate gambling and investing as if they're one and the same. They're not synonymous. What happens is investing turns into gambling when you do exactly what you just said.
correct.
No information involved. You know nothing about it. You put your money on the table. That's a gamble. But when you arm yourself with information and back yourself, educate yourself on whatever topic it is, it's an educated guess. Of course, it might not work out. That's what an investment's all about. You take that risk. There has to be risk involved.
Yeah.
So I always push that for everyone. And I'm glad this is actually like our first episode on finances. So we're gonna build from here. And I just want to keep pushing that as a theme. And I don't care how stupid we sound. If we do sound stupid or ignorant, it's like we're capturing a moment, like the zeitgeist of the times.
Yeah.
This is what the zeitgeist is of finances. So I
I,
don't.
I also think it's important to note that you and I are not financial professionals, right? Like we built up a lot of years of experience, and we're just sharing, what not to do.
Right.
As individuals, you can go out there, whatever you want. But I think you're hitting a really good important point. Like with social media, the information's at your fingertips now.
Yeah.
Literally go to a website, load up any browser. Everyone's got one of these in their pocket. Just quickly go do a quick search. Educate yourself on something, and that's how you're gonna get ahead.
So where do you see Bitcoin right now? Like I look at, when I was investing heavily, I would look at the NASDAQ, the S&P, not the Dow Jones as much because it's way too many stocks.
Yeah.
The S&P and NASDAQ is more of a technology stocks are involved. And the S&P 500, and there's Russell 2000, which I think are the small caps or mid caps.
Small cap.
Joe Fahmy, shout out to Joe Fahmy. He's the one who really put me on to short squeezing, which is going back to the Wall Street bets, what that is and how you can see the potential in the next burst in any stock. And also, what was I going, Saj? About I forgot.
Well, I think that the concept of short squeeze, you kind of hit on that.
Hmm.
What exactly is a short squeeze? GameStop was all over the news. Essentially, you're able to sell something you don't own, right?
Hmm.
So, in the GameStop scenario, like let's say there's 1,000 GameStop shares out there, but somehow they were able to sell 1.5 times. So if there's 1,000 GameStop shares out there, somehow they sold 1,500 when 1,500 don't exist. So that's the concept of, so if in to your earlier point on gambling, if people sold something that doesn't exist, and then I went and go bought something that does exist, that's going to send it up. And now the person who sold something has to buy it back because they sold it at like $10, something they don't own. They have to go buy it back, and their thought is, I sold it at 10, I'll buy it back at 2. I made an $8 difference. But if someone else took the other side of that bet, now that $10 stock is worth, GameStop was 300, so that person lost a lot of money. And the power of data is there in front of us. So just understanding some of these things, could be really interesting for the long haul. So
Yeah. I was gonna say, I look at those different what do you call them, NASDAQ, S&P,
yeah, the indexes.
the indexes. So I look
Yeah.
at them, the Russell 2000 for the small caps. What kind of other indexes for Bitcoin, for cryptocurrency? Do they have those sort of indexes, or is there not enough like
Yeah.
cryptocurrencies to get involved? Or does NFT do as well? Because I can't see how they don't have indexes coming up soon.
Yeah. So, if you wanted to invest money like right now, like into crypto, you kind of can't because there's no ETF for it. There's an interesting one called, I think it's called GBTC. It's like the grayscale Bitcoin, and it's just more of like an indicator, but it's not really a true investment of Bitcoin. So in Canada, they just approved a bunch of ETFs, and the rumor in the U.S. is that they've been trying to approve it for the last couple of years, but it gets shot down because regulation needs to be a little bit more tighter. You got to protect the investor from some of the corrupt the people who bring the stuff to market and try to sell you snake oil. So um,
Right.
that's happening. My guess is in the next year or two we'll see a huge ETF. You have a 401k, you throw it into Vanguard, you throw it into one of these things, you'll have an option to do crypto stuff. But if you wanted to do index funds, I know I kind of mentioned DeFi before. There's a lot of cool financial products where you can go buy like the top 100 cryptocurrency projects that are like relatively stable and park your money in there, and they turn it into a product. I don't have to go through a bank. I don't have to go through a financial advisor. I go do my own research, and then I go buy on one of these platforms. Again, like I kind of mentioned earlier, it's not the easiest thing to do. So it needs a bit more work to make it easier for everyone to kind of adopt and get used to.
Right. So, and well, I guess, do we have these different kind of maybe I should ask, does blockchain have indexes where you can keep track of these? Not necessarily invest, in the blockchain, but you're keeping track of which group of blockchains are trending up and which group of blockchains
Yeah.
are trending down. Because that's the most important thing for me in the stock market, is
Yeah.
if you have leaders like the Bitcoins of the world, if those leaders are leading and they're shooting up and they're consolidating, then I think the market is safe. That's from what I've learned. But if they're trending down, is there anything like that, like an index to keep a track of folders of different kind of blockchains?
Absolutely, man. There's two ones that I use. Coin Market Cap is
Mm,
one, and then I use CoinGecko. It's sort of like going to Yahoo Finance and looking up, what are the top 100, projects, what are the top 100 stacks when you go to Yahoo Finance, or, if you go to whatever website you use for financial stuff. Coin Market Cap does that for you. You have like the whole, the market cap of that particular project, how much it traded that day, which exchanges you can go buy those projects or those coins at. I personally like CoinGecko. It's more unbiased, so to speak, and it
mm.
has a lot more relative data that I can use that's applicable to kind of my style.
And they have NFTs listed on there as well, or is there a stock X for NFTs?
Yeah, the NFTs have grown so quickly. There is an NFT section there. Yeah, so you can go look at the NFT projects out there, and each day they're coming out by the masses. A
That's
couple weeks
crazy.
ago there's probably like 10. Now there's probably several hundred that are out there now. So it's going to multiply exponentially, and before you know it, there'll be several 100,000 of projects. I mean, maybe several 100,000 of projects out there globally on NFTs on
Do
different
you,
blockchains.
what NFTs do you see trending now if you're looking into it like that? I look at it like that. Like that's how I look at stocks. Like Amazon's in this group. I forgot what the groups were, but Amazon's in the tech retail world, and that's trending. They're the leaders in that world. So therefore, the other companies in that tech retail world are leaders as well. Are there any NFTs groups or indexes that are trending up?
For me, I need to do a lot more work in the NFT space, but for me, I've gravitated towards the license model, the licensed entities. So NFTs, so you have NBA Top Shots where you have licensed basketball cards. They're
Go
about to
go with what you know.
go
Right.
with what I know. Then they have, the UFC coming out. So these are all licensed and fully endorsed. I look at it like this might be a silly example, but like a Louis Vuitton bag, right? Like I can go spend, I want to get my wife or my girlfriend, whoever, a nice Louis Vuitton bag. I want to make sure it's authentic. I
Mm,
can go down to Chinatown and I
mm,
know it's not authentic, but I can fool myself and kind of think this is authentic. It looks the same, it feels the same, but then you bring it home, like, where's the barcode? It's not there, right? It's not the same. But with NFTs, from with the basketball stuff, I know it's authentic, right? I know it's mine. I know it's owned. I know where it was minted. I know who created it. I don't have to worry about the guessing game, that kind of stuff. So again, I go with what I know. I think this is cool. The UFC application, they just announced, like, Dr. Seuss trading cards as well, which is kind of cool. It's a little controversial now with the whole Dr. Seuss banning of the books, but
yeah.
for you and I, this is how we grew up. We heard about the Green Eggs and Ham book, and to me, I'm not as sensitive to it as much. I don't find it offensive because I grew up in a different time. But that's just me. Garbage Pail Kids are digitized. A lot of cool
That's
stuff.
crazy. I
Yeah.
I think